What's up? Welcome to the At The Hive Podcast. We're on our own now, and you can see our faces, for better or for worse. I'm Jonathan, the guy that's been talking and doing all this stuff forever. So you recognize my voice, and I'm sure. And then Chase. Chase, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to be off on our own. We're independent now. We're an indie blog. We're kind of taking it back to like the early NBA blog days of the early 2010s. So
is that
re-innovating? I guess is the term.
I guess we're gonna make it thrive. I mean, we'll hopefully make it thrive. Hopefully everybody likes it and likes the new way we're doing things. It's a good chance for a fresh start, right? Like, not that everything that I was doing before was like demanded of me, or there were like strict restrictions on how I did things, but it was definitely a temptation to just do stuff the way people were doing it before I had the blog and that other blogs were doing it. And now it's just like, we can do whatever we want. So let's see how it goes. The real quick updates. I don't know where things will be at by the time this is up, but the last kind of thing we're waiting for is I just got to get the domain to me. Like, so I already have like the stuff that I need for it, and I've already like requested it and started the process of transferring it. It just takes some time to become mine. And so that's why it's kind of in this weird in-between state. Some of you might have seen like the temporary link for it. And then other than that, we're up and running. So, it'll be at thehive.com. Everything else will be the same. We got a YouTube channel now, making an Instagram account now, if you guys are into that stuff. And then, we have whatever all the other stuff coming, and I'll post about it as we go, and you'll kind of see all the stuff. And then the only kind of big thing, I guess, besides that is just like, please give us feedback, because I'm just kind of winging it right now on what I think everybody would like based on what we had before. But if people have ideas on how things can be better or things that are not working, like, let me know. Like, I'm not like married to the idea that we have right now. So yeah, that's new at the Hive. And thanks, Chase, for coming along. We're gonna make it cool.
I'm super excited. Like Jonathan said, the beauty of this, we can do literally whatever we want. So you guys, yes, exactly. You guys let us know, and we can just do it pretty much right away. So please give us feedback. We hope you guys enjoy it. As we're recording this, we saw that there's some people that are already here within hours of the website being launched. So we appreciate everybody for that already. So thank you all.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's been crazy how quickly people have just like started filtering in based on like what I buried a comment, like anybody that wants to be a real one, sign up for the site before like I changed the domain to the one that we have now, and it's already been like a pretty significant handful of people. So that's been cool. Anyway, the Hornets are playing basketball still. They haven't waited for us. Kind of rude.
Yeah, I was a little bit upset about that. I figured there'd be like a 2 or 3 week pause in the season so we could kind of get our bearings. But
right, if we're gonna like,
there's not. I was weird.
I know, like, we're gonna pause for like a global pandemic and stuff, and then they won't close. They won't pause while like we're getting our blog affairs in order. Like,
those are pretty much equal in severity. I can't really understand why one would be different than the other.
But I guess my like general sentiment for the Hornets right now is that like it's been really fun to watch them play, even though they're losing and playing not well. But like, there's something about there being no expectations and no meaning to the games, right? The Hornets are like locked into picking fourth, and they've been locked into picking fourth for the last couple weeks, for the most part, 2 or 3 weeks. So it's just like, if they win, cool. It was fun to watch them win. If they lose, doesn't matter. Like, there's no playoffs on the line. There's no lottery standings on the line. It's just like, just watch basketball. And then,
I mean, these last like 2 weeks have been like, I think they've mentioned it on the broadcast a couple times. I was listening to a game on the radio, and Sam Farmer was talking about it. It's like their only job right now is to just play spoiler, is to just beat teams that shouldn't really be losing at this time of the year. Like, and that's fun. Yeah, they've done a really good job at it. Ashley Shamady asked Gordon Hayward in a post-game interview. She was like, do you guys like kind of make a point to do this? Are you setting out to like do stuff like this, like make these runs late in the season and beat teams that are way higher in the standings, have a much better record? And he was like, Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. He's like, we do enjoy that. Like, and you know, if Gordon
Right.
Hayward's saying that, then well, Dennis Smith Jr. was like, we're gonna put their ass in the dirt or something like that when they were
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
what they were thinking about
Dallas,
before the Dallas. Yeah, like that's like they all are obviously the players are enjoying it. Obviously, the coaches and the front office are enjoying it. Finally, getting like a good stretch out of this season, and hopefully the fans are enjoying it too. So I've had
yeah,
a lot of fun watching these games.
yeah. On the fans thing, it's been crazy to me that how many people are still showing up to Hornets games. Like, I guess kudos to everybody
Yeah,
that's still going to Hornets games when they're like bare bottom, like one of the worst teams in the league, and they're playing meaningless games. But even against teams that are not draws on their own. Like, I know a lot of people went to the Mavericks games, and that's just because of Kyrie and Luka. But still, like, people are showing out for like all the games, and it's been one of the highest attended seasons for the Hornets in a while, I saw. So now we just need to be good. The thing that was funny about the spoiler is the Hornets played spoiler for the Mavs, right, and beat them twice in a row, which they had no business doing, and the Mavericks are like scratching and clawing to even be in the play-in, and they lose twice to the Hornets as huge favorites. And the team that the Hornets helped was the Thunder, who were leapfrog the Mavs, and then they go out and beat the Thunder too. So it's just like chaos everywhere. Like we're not. I thought it'd be very funny just for like the storyline or whatever if the Hornets, they beat the Mavs twice and the Thunder leapfrog them, and then the Hornets go out and just get smashed by the Thunder. Like, just continually feed into that, like, we're just sabotaging the Mavericks. We have nothing against the Mavericks, but we've just out of convenience to become the enemy, and we're doing everything we can to keep you out of the playoffs specifically.
that would have been pretty good. I mean, at this point, like even those two losses might have done it. Like Dallas is what they're 37-42 now. They're a
Not
full
good.
game behind the Thunder for a last play-in spot. Like the Mavs have a pretty equal chance at getting a top 10 pick as they do of making the play-in tournament, much less like the actual playoffs right now. Like that, it's wild to think about.
They're also only a half game ahead of the Jazz.
Yeah,
and
the Jazz are like actively not trying to make the playoffs.
The Jazz have been trying so hard all season to not win, and they like start off hot and they're like, I guess this is cool, but then they're like, all right, that's enough of that. Let's like get rid of all of these guys now and really like embrace the tank, and they're still not losing enough. Like Danny Ainge probably don't know what to do with himself. Like his whole thing was to be like super bad and trade for a million draft picks, and it's like, look how much better we were than when I started, when I made us super bad, but they're like not getting bad enough to improve.
Yeah, he's like, I have all these picks from Rudy Gobert, but we're still not bad. He's like, the first part happened, but I don't know what to do about that. The second step just won't come.
I know. It's like the 76ers doing the process, but then they like kept finishing like sixth worst record, and they're like,
this isn't we can't figure this out. Why is Michael Carter Williams averaging a triple double? We can't figure this out.
On aside, Michael Carter Williams, how many times during that
legend?
Right, yeah, and I was going to ask, how many times during the legendary Michael Carter Williams season did you think, how did this guy win Rookie of the Year?
I mean, like that game that he started off his career, I'm pretty sure in his debut he had like 8 steals or something like that.
Yeah, I think he has like one steal short from a quadruple double or something stupid, like, or like an assist and a steal shy of a quadruple double, and then that was like literally the peak of his career. And it was wasn't against the Heat, or maybe that was like the second game they played the Heat, like the big 3 Heat, and he like almost single-handedly took them down. It was the first game.
It was the first game of the season in 2013-14. Michael Carter Williams had 22 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists, 9 steals, and they beat the Heat. The process Sixers beat the Miami Heat. So, I mean, there's a chance that was the best game of his career, right?
I feel like it will always be the best game of his career.
Which is just like, so, I mean, obviously it's not a bad thing. Like, that's a really good game to have. It's just funny that it was literally the very first game of his career.
I know. And then it's like, I remember having debates with people on At The Hive about like players don't like, I can't remember who it was about, but it was like some thing about like general career trajectories and how players are never, their best season is never their first season usually. And Michael Carter Williams is like the shining example of that. Sometimes it's true. It wasn't just his first season, first game.
Yeah.
Which I guess to kind of circle back to talking about the Hornets, we'll talk about people like actually playing for the Hornets now. One of the guys up until recently kind of did that on the Hornets, PJ Washington, because he came out and hit 7 threes and he still hasn't matched that in the 4 years since then. But he's been, I guess, since we're gonna kind of, I feel like since we haven't talked in a while, we'll just kind of go hit some highlights of the stuff that's been happening in a few weeks, and I guess we can start with him. He's out hurt now, but kind of before that, he's kind of doing the thing that like was reminiscent of what Miles Bridges did a couple years ago, right? Where like
that is true. Very true.
Season and the games didn't matter so much. So like there's taking with a grain of salt, but also building some momentum and some confidence going into the off season. I mean, his is with the free agency upcoming, but like he's had some moments in more extended, like more frequently, where it's like, okay, maybe this guy is a really good piece. Cause I know he's been like a hot button topic of like, is he good enough to pay? Is he going to be worth the contract he gets? And should the Hornets prioritize keeping him? And I feel like he's made a really strong case the last few weeks.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like the career high 43-point game is obviously really good. Before that, though, he had 21 and 12 and then 28 and 6. Like he's been, I think he's gotten rid of a lot of the consistency things that he's had. Like people for pretty much his entire career, like that's been the one thing that people have kind of gone back to is like, well, he's obviously been really good in spurts and has had really good individual games, but he never really seems to string it all together. I mean, he's obviously averaging career highs in like most categories due to the volume that he's been scoring and shooting at this year, because he's 73 games played this year for this Charlotte Hornets team. That is no small feat. Like that is like genuinely really impressive. 32.6 minutes per game, like almost 16 points and 5 rebounds each. Like I think he's kind of dispelled the consistency concerns, and like next year when the team is healthier and he doesn't have all these shots that he normally wouldn't be getting and like tougher looks, having to create them for himself, the efficiency numbers will go back up and he'll be back towards like a 37% shooter and like a fourth option 6'7" big man that's like a 4/5 that shoots 38% from 3 and now has all of these like shot creator reps, like kind of like how you said Miles Bridges got them at the end of that one season. Like that will definitely benefit going forward.
Right. His this is a random sampling, like not random, but like I got it. It's skewed because I picked it because it makes it look the best, but whatever, it's still good. His last 18 games before he got hurt against the Bulls, 19 points, 6.2 rebounds, 2.3 assists, a steal, and a block and a half per game, shooting 37% from 3. So like the scoring's up, but like what I think people forget about PJ is he's a really good passer for a big or a forward that's not like a point forward. And the steal and block numbers, like there are very few people in the NBA that can get a steal game, a block a game, and shoot like in the high 30s on high volume for 3. Like that's a really, really rare combination of skills to find. And even if like the overall consistencies can be frustrating and the overall, like, you know, there are some holes that can be frustrating, like that's super, super hard to find. Like that's about as versatile of a player as you can find.
I completely agree. Like those guys that are that height that can shoot that well and play defense like that, they get paid in the NBA. Like he's probably going to get a good contract and like will also most likely be worth it.
Right. Also, you know, new CBA stuff's changing. It probably ends up being a bargain before long, right?
Yeah, new TV deals coming in however many years, like 20 million isn't going to be what it used to be.
We're going to have that same like perspective shift that we had, like, was it like 10 years ago at this point now, when the cap spiked, or maybe not 10 years ago, it was like 8 years ago. Yeah, when the cap spiked and everybody gets like a max swap because we've increased the cap so much. And everyone that's used to saying like a mid-level exception players making like $4 or $5 million, now they're making like 11. People are like, wow, that is so overpriced. And it's like, no, it's the same amount relative. It's just different. The numbers are different. I do wonder, by the way, on that, what's going to happen, because like regional deals seem to be, or regional TV networks seem to be just like evaporating. And I wonder how much that affects I'm sure they'll be fine, but I don't know what we're going to do about that. But otherwise, like, I don't know who else has stood out to you these last few weeks while we're just kind of like killing time heading into the end of the season.
I mean, honestly, like just seeing all of the young players in general has been like awesome. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go with I'll lead with James Bouknight because I feel like he has gotten next to no like props or like hype from the Hornets at all or Hornets fans at all.
Right.
Back-to-back 20-point games for the former lottery pick though.
He
In his
looks
second
different
season.
too, doesn't he? In those
Yeah,
games.
he does. He moves a lot differently on the court. I think he looks a lot more like confident. He's been playing like
Yeah.
secondary point guard kind of. Has like been bringing the
Yeah.
ball up a lot. He like career highs in assists. Like he's had 5 assists 3 times this season already. Like he's been pretty good these last couple of games. And obviously the back-to-back 20-point games, he's shooting a total of 11 from 18 from 3, which is a marked change from his like early season numbers where he was not a very good shooter from 3.
I'm gonna go out on a limb, and if Bouknight can continue to be a 60% 3-point shooter, he might have a place in this league and on this team.
You know, I think you might be onto something with that. You might be onto something.
He's like I said, like you said, the confidence. It's like so striking watching him play these last couple of games, and it's not like I said, it's not just like, oh, he's making shots now, and that's the only difference. Just like there's this composure that he didn't have in a lot of his other times, and I don't blame him too, right? Like it's really tough when you don't play for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like, all right, James, go out there for 8 minutes and don't mess it up and make it and prove to us in those 8 minutes that you should play more. Like it's super easy to try to do too much and to press and like not really play your game. And so I think it's helped him that he's had these extended runs of like, all right, now you're going to get minutes. No one's going to come and get you because there's no one else on the roster to teach you off the floor because everyone's hurt. And then you got and now you see him like he's almost playing slower, right? Like he's not going headlong into people, and he's not trying to make something cool happen, make a big play every time he touches the ball, and he's just letting the game come to him. And the challenge will be to do that long term, and then but he's at least showing like what he could be, especially if he can shoot, because that's the shot we saw in the pre-draft workouts where everyone's like, oh dang, this guy might just be the best shooter in the draft because this is the best shooting workout we've ever seen, and then he just never made them in games, and he's kind of figuring that out these last couple of games at least.
Yeah, and he had that game in the G League not too long ago where he made 11 threes. In the G League this season, in the regular season, he played 24 games with the Swarm. He was with Greensboro for pretty much like 2 full months, without really ever playing in a game for Charlotte. And he shot 43.4% from 3, 7.3 attempts per game. Like that is very high volume and a very high percentage. Like if there might have, I mean, he took 175 total attempts in that stretch. Like that might be enough to like really shift like his like mentality as a shooter and have him like buy into his own ability and be like, I can like space the floor in the NBA instead of having to be like a shot creator, I guess, like he was at UConn. Like he can just be a shooter, like, and it's obvious, honestly, working really well for him so far.
Yeah, and then that opens up a lot for him, right? Because like his trajectory without that shot becomes really murky because he becomes like this ball dominant like shot creator that can't really create shots efficiently enough to justify giving him the ball a lot. So it's like he hasn't been, and he can still develop that, but he hasn't been consistent enough like in isolation and as a ball handler shot creator to like warrant having the ball in his hands. And if that's the case, you have to be a spot up shooter. And if you're not making spot up shots, like what do you do? Right? Like he's still a good bucket getter, but he's not a good enough bucket getter to do that as like his role on the team. So he just kind of ends up in this like no man's land. And if he's making his shots like this, then that really clearly defines a role for him till the if and when he becomes like a competent enough shot creator to make himself like that microwave, like Jordan Clarkson type of guy, or like what Malik Monk has become. Not to rub salt in the wound.
Malik Monk is out quite literally living the best possible life that he could be living as a member of the
Yeah.
Sacramento Kings. Like,
Right.
could not be going any better for them right now. So
Yeah.
we'll get there soon.
Kudos to the Kings for making the Hornets the longest drought, like the team with the longest playoff drought in the NBA.
Which is like, that was, honestly, obviously that it's not great. Like, it's
No,
not a good
but
thing. I'm not saying it's good, but 6 years isn't like that long, really. Like, it's not like it's people have gone through longer.
like
I'll
the
put it
Kings
that way.
went through like 20.
Yeah.
It's like 6 years is very short for a professional sports league's shortest or longest playoff drought. I mean,
Yeah.
like
The fact that that's the longest active playoff drought is honestly, yeah, that is true. It's very impressive.
Yeah, and the league I think is in a super good place for that too. Like, I'm sure the league is loving the fact that like there's the 4 garbage teams, including the Hornets, and then other than that, like, I don't know, there's like no prohibitive favorite to win the title or either conference. Like, that's kind of always been the goal of the NBA, right? Like, every new rule they've been making in terms of like roster management and stuff has been about like, it's not good for the league when we had, like, as much as people like the Warriors and Cavs, I think for the significance of the regular season and to market the regular season, it's not good if people already know the finals matchup in October. Whereas, like, if everyone's healthy, these are the 2 teams that make it. I know there's value in those matchups, but like for the whole length of the season, it's better to be like, everybody can win. Now we got storylines of like, who's the MVP and how important is defense. The other, I guess, like the last kind of highlight, I guess 2 more I want to talk about, like players before we kind of get into the general things. Mark Williams looks like he's like they made the right decision with Mark, and then we'll talk about that first, and then I want to hear how, like, what is Fee Mikhailuk mean to you? But first, like, Mark Williams, he's still inconsistent, but like, I feel like there was probably some hand wringing at the beginning of the season, and we've talked about him a little bit like halfway through, but I feel like he's really settled down any like worry that, like, is this guy good?
Yeah, no, I think like probably from June until maybe like December, people were just like losing their minds that like the Hornets traded Jalen Duren and ended up with Mark Williams, who like wasn't even a part of the Charlotte Hornets roster, much less like the rotation. But
yeah,
now Jalen Duren's averaging 8.9 points, 8.7 rebounds, and assists and a block. And Marcus Williams is averaging 8.6 points, 6.9 rebounds, 0.4 assists, and a block. So they are essentially, other than like 3 rebounds, the exact same player in their rookie season, which is, surprise, surprise for 2 young big men that everyone knew needed some development, that neither of them are, exceptional, but both are pretty damn good for what they've shown so far.
Yeah, there's a reason they were picked 2 spots apart, and they were kind of interchangeable in draft rankings, right? Like, they're pretty similar prospects. And then he's just kind of like Book Knight. Everything looks slower for him. He's in like the right positions. He's got like shockingly good hands, especially for how kind of clumsy he was to start the season. It felt like he was like always getting the ball, and then even in the summer league, he like kept getting the ball ripped away from him, and he was kind of soft and kind of goofy. And then he feels like if he can get his hands on a rebound, he's like grabbing it, and he's not losing the ball in traffic, and he's got really soft touch around the rim. And like, you can see a lot of room to like expand his game based on that kind of stuff. I would like to see him pass the ball more and make more. He has these moments of these, like that backdoor pass he threw from like half court to Gordon Hayward and stuff like that. So he can, but I would like to see that kind of stuff more from him. But like, I think I haven't watched Duren as much, but like, I feel like there's a lot of tangible things you can build off of, like the shooting and the touch and the passing and all that stuff, that you can project maybe a wider, diverse skill set long term for him.
Yeah, and I think especially like when Market's extended run with LaMelo, we're gonna see more of like those flashes just to be of like him making good passes and like the pick and roll or something as like a short roll playmaker, like getting offensive rebounds, kicking out to LaMelo, relocating somewhere along the 3-point line. I think hopefully we'll get to see more of that in the coming months and years as a member of the Hornets. But yeah, Mark has been very good lately, and I like the rotation that Clifford has going lately, where it's like Mark plays, Nick plays, Kai sits, Nick plays, Kai plays, Mark sits. I thought that's pretty good for getting to see everybody down the stretch. And
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do that, but I like it a lot too. It feels like something I would do in like a video game, where I'm like trying to split minutes up.
Honestly, it's like that is like a 2K rotation method, just being like, I want to make sure all of these guys play without having to play like 4 minutes a game.
Right. Last thing, I guess, last like topic, I guess, before we kind of wrap up and do some general stuff. 2 minutes. People like Steve Mikhailuk. Is Steve Mikhailuk a thing? He had a career high in points against the Raptors, and he's been playing really well. But like, are we doing this? Like, what do we do with Steve Mikhailuk here?
I mean, career high 26 in that Raptors game, 10 of 17 from the field. He's been a good, just all around scorer for the Hornets, which is something that's really took me by surprise. I admittedly was not the foremost Svi Mikhailuk viewer prior to him.
That's the fault of yours, yes, we all know.
Yeah. Right, I know. I'm sure that everyone is just like bashing in their car speakers right now because they're so upset that I haven't watched repeated Svi Mikhailuk games. But he's been like a really good scorer inside the arc since he got here, not just a 3-point shooter, which he's also still been good at. He's shot well over 45% since he joined the team. I don't think we as Hornets fans are going to continue doing the Svi Mikhailuk experience, but the NBA absolutely will. He has more than earned himself another NBA contract, whether that's as like a low end rotation player or like just an end of the bench guy or something. Like he's certainly an NBA talent, and he's like 6'7", 200 pounds and can defend pretty well. So
I think like he's been really good, and he definitely, like you said, deserves the NBA, like to stay in the NBA, but I feel like he's going to continue this journeyman role of like he's going to fill out as like the 13th or 15th guy in the roster. I don't think we should be expecting this to be a normal thing for him. And if he walks or we don't have room for him, I don't think we're going to miss it. But like, kudos to Svi. He's playing really well, and I hope he continues to do well. And it'll be fine with. I'll be fine with it if the Hornets keep him. I just think he was just kind of like a roster filler, and the Hornets will not make it a priority to keep him. All right. So we're going to wrap up the show with buzzing and wasn't, like we do sometimes, and we'll do more going forward. But since the season's been weird, or this part of the season's been weird, and there's not like meaningful things to talk about, we're going to kind of split it up. So Chase, who or what is buzzing?
The Charlotte Hornets defensive rating.
Oh yeah,
is buzzing lately. For a moment,
it's very buzzing.
The Charlotte Hornets had the best defense in the NBA post All-Star break for probably like a 3-day stretch. Maybe it's fallen down to 9th since then, but obviously it's a very small gap between 9th and even like 6th or 7th, and even like up to 1st and 2nd. It's only like a couple points difference in defensive rating, which can swing back and forth over the course of a week. And the Hornets defense has been awesome this second half. All the young players clearly have bought into what Steve Clifford is selling. They've all gotten better very quickly under the tutelage of Steve Clifford and the staff that he's put together for this year. I mean, it didn't look good at the beginning of the year, but it's been salvaged quite a bit in the last month. Offensively, they are still last in the league, which is mostly due to the fact that they have been all season like preposterously bad, like shooting team, like just all over the floor. They finish at a very inefficient rate. LaMelo Ball has been out for most of the year, so you can probably imagine that has something to do with it. But even with him out now, the defense has been like pretty awesome in the second half or final third of the year after the All-Star game. So the defense is buzzing.
If there's one thing Steve Clifford can do, it's take a team, no matter how good or bad they were all season long, and make them play insanely good defense at the end of the season. Like
here we are. It's happening again.
It was like a little bit worrisome because it's like, we're gonna do too much, but it didn't matter because but I guess before I get to that, it's interesting. It's like, I guess it says a lot about Steve Clifford as a coach too. I know I've talked about it. I don't know how much it's been like on the site and stuff, but like I don't know how much appealing it is to keep Steve Clifford around again. But like, if nothing else, you can't deny that he does do a good job getting players to buy in defensively, and it says a lot about the players' like respect for him as a coach, that like they're continuing to get better and implement things that he's been preaching all year. Like they haven't tuned him out, and they're still doing a good job. I think the Thunder game, by the way, is what killed that defensive rating. And I don't know how much I know because you write stuff, you probably don't read as much, but like I said in the preview for that game, by the way, that if Shea plays, the Thunder are going to win probably pretty easily. And if Shea doesn't play, this game is going to be super ugly and bad to watch because no one on either team can score. And then when they went on to play like a 137 to 134 game, like, why do you guys listen to me? Why does anybody read the stuff that I write? Like,
yeah, right. Just the complete opposite.
Yeah, I could not have been more wrong about what happened, but whatever. And then people
we'll take it.
What wasn't is the Hornets offense. So the Hornets have the worst offensive rating in the NBA since the All-Star break. So it'll tale of two sides of the court there. Their offensive rating, which it's kind of funny, their offensive rating since the All-Star break is 106.4, which is the lowest in the league. And I'm pretty sure if I were to go back like 15 years, that would be like at least middle of the pack offensive rating.
Oh yeah, 106. We'll take a look at it right now. 106.4 in 2007, 2008 would put you at 13th in the NBA.
Yeah, so, nice. Yeah. Squarely in the middle.
Yeah.
Now it's the worst by not insignificant margin. Like they're like a point off 29th. So it's not, which when there's by NBA standards, that's a pretty big gap. It's really funny. Do you know Kurt Goldsberry?
Yes, I do. I've read his book, Sprawl Ball, and I have one of his basketball maps.
Yeah,
he's a big Kurt Goldsberry guy.
Yeah, he's great follow, great visualizations and like statistics and stuff. I really appreciate his like efficiency landscape that he posts periodically.
Yes,
and lately he has like the Hornets, and it's like Hornets are over here, like they're not on the chart at all. It's like got all the teams on the chart, and then it's like to Charlotte that way.
He would have to make the graph too big, like to fit them.
It's like it's like they're not so bad that you couldn't do it, but I really appreciate like the humor and like the nice touch of like, yeah, the Charlotte Hornets don't deserve a spot on this. They're over there if you want to go find them. But like you like kind of what you touched on talking about the defense, like everybody's hurt, all players are out. It's been a weird season. Even then, I talked about it a few times throughout the course of the season where like people are just not making shots. And it's weird that everybody's been, and it's like, there's a lot of factors to it. Some of it's probably offensive system. Some of it's just ebbs and flows of how basketball works, and people get hot and cold. But it's been crazy that like everyone is shooting below their career standards, even on like wide open shots this year. It's been one of those years. Like it felt like we were close to something good happening in Charlotte, and like the basketball guys were like, no. Everything is going to be terrible.
Yep, not quite, not so fast.
So, but the other wasn't, by the way, just for show purposes, is my setup right now. It is like needs to be worked upon. That is just so you guys can. I can't show you because like it's making this happen. I have a light above a monitor that is not on, and it's just like balancing precariously on top of it. Which you haven't seen this in the show, but it's fallen off a couple times. Because it's like teetering, and if I like bump the desk or like move, like roll my chair, and it makes the room shift a little bit, it just falls. I have my laptop stacked on a stack of books, and my keyboard is inside of a drawer because my mic is in the way from the keyboard being on the desk. So we're gonna have to do some work over here on my setup. But if I didn't tell you that, you wouldn't have known, right?
Hey, this is the workman's podcast setup. You got your lunch pail sitting right next to
I do have
the
my lunch
keyboard
pail
in the
and
drawer.
and my shoes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Your hard hat is hanging next
it's
to all
you
of them
can't
as
see
well.
it. It's like right over there. It's
I
all of
know.
the hard hats, and yeah,
I
but
believe you.
it's there. I can't. I would show you, but like I can't. Like I just said, if I touch the laptop, like my entire setup is gonna crumble to pieces. And
Right, right.
so,
It's
but I
convenient
just take my
that
word
works
for it.
out.
It's over there. Um, but yeah, I guess that's about. I think that about does it. Do you have anything else you want to touch on before we kind of call it a show?
No, I think that'll do it for me. It's a good first show on the new
Yeah,
platform here.
yeah. We'll get, and I think we'll get back more of a stride, and we'll kind of figure out what we're doing more. I hope seeing our faces doesn't like turn people away from watching it. I mean, you could always just like put the audio, it just put the video on and then just like minimize your window and you can still listen to us. If that's your thing. But yeah, all what's going to be on YouTube like this one is for the time being. We'll see if I can if it becomes worth the time and investment to get a RSS feed and stuff set up that I can put it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts like it was before. For now, YouTube is probably going to be the place to go. Thank you everybody that is stuck around and is still coming to us for content with this whole transitional period. And we really, really, really appreciate it. I can't say that enough. And so yeah, thanks a bunch for that and hope to keep seeing you guys coming back. Thanks for watching now. Thanks for listening. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.